What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you stopped by. Today I want to talk to you about the 7 most likely reasons you should prepare now for SHTF collapse in 2024. I mean, I think it's very, very likely, and it becomes more likely every single day. Every single move or escalation that these wars are undertaking and the border situation and the economic collapse. So I wanted to cover the 7 most likely things that are going to cause SHTF to happen in 2024, and that will help you guys to know how you need to prepare for things. So number one, and these are not in any numerical order, these are just any one of these things could happen at any possible time, and any one of these things by themselves could be a nation ender, a world ender for the United States of America. I'm not talking about the rest of the world. I'm talking about my country, the good old US of A, or what's left of it anyway. So, number one thing, economic collapse. I think it's very likely. I mean, you've got 34 trillion and counting in debt. It's unreal. We can't even service our debt anymore, meaning that the interest is so great that we can't pay it off. It's just we're upside down. There's no way we can fix this, at least at the way it stands currently. There may be some things to do, and maybe that's why a lot of different people are beating the war drums. Is that's one of the things in the past, historically, the United States has gotten itself conveniently involved in certain conflicts to help the economy out in the past. So that could be it. But guys, I'm telling you, economic collapse is a really, really big one, because if it happens, it'll be like a thief in the night. Suddenly, all the banks will be having a run on the banks and all this stuff, and you won't be able to get your money out. Money will be worthless. People will be using it to light their wood stoves and stuff like that. And we also have to worry about the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America. No, is it South Africa? I'm sorry, South Africa. But they are courting a lot of different South American nations as well. So, I mean, they're getting ahead of steam built up, guys. So it's very possible that many of the nations, even Saudi Arabia, supposedly one of our closest Middle Eastern allies, is now openly talking about embracing the new BRICS system and the BRICS currency. So that means the end of the petrodollar, and that alone by itself could send us into economic collapse, like Weimar Republic type stuff, where you have to take a wheelbarrow full of money down to get a loaf of bread. I mean, that's a big deal, and you should be preparing for that now. I'm not sure. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I would say stock up on lead, maybe get a little bit of gold and silver and stuff like that for bartering items and other things, non-perishable bartering items, food, water, different things like that, that you'll be able to trade in the future. That may become the economy. It may become a 100% barter economy after SHTF happens. Highly likely. So economic collapse is big on my radar. I'm constantly paying attention to these, a lot of stuff that I don't even understand. A lot of this stuff about the economy, it's so big, it's bigger than any budget that I can imagine, so it's a lot of it's over my head. But from what I see, there's a lot of signs pointing to economic collapse is highly likely in 2024. Not only possible, but likely in some form or another. Next up, number 2, power grid collapse. I mean, we've heard tons and tons of talk. For one, the WEF supervillain Klaus Schwab said like a few years ago, Cyber Polygon could be a greater threat than COVID-19. It could destroy the whole world, blah, blah, blah. He was probably wearing his cloak and all that stuff. And I mean, the guy is a supervillain. You can't make this crap up. He's unelected. He's just some, Richie that got appointed to the WEF way back in the day. And I believe the Rockefellers were tied in to putting him in that position of power. And so, yeah, their little WEF cyber polygon puppet is talking all about how if a cyber attack happens that's bad enough, it will destroy the United States of America and the whole world, because everything is connected in to the system now, to the internet now. So if that goes down and there's a big enough cyber attack, I mean, it could destroy everything. The other possibility that I think is also just as likely as a cyber attack is an EMP. We've talked about this extensively here on the channel. I think it's one of the greatest threats we face is an EMP, because, from the enemy's perspective, whatever enemy you want to pick, they can come in and destroy the infrastructure and make us kill ourselves before they ever have to put boots on the ground. I mean, that's a win-win situation. When you can have your enemy destroy itself, it's always what you want to do, you know? So anyway, I think that's highly likely. I hope it doesn't happen, because I think really one or two, economic collapse or power grid collapse, they all kind of overlap in a weird way. So if the power grid collapses, definitely the economy is going to be a close second, and it's going to follow that power grid collapse. Because if suddenly you shut down all of your industry, all of your means of production, because there's no power and no computers and stuff like that, then we're talking a lot of people are going to die. I don't want to say percentages of how many people, but a heck of a lot of people are going to die in the first couple of weeks. If nothing else, because they're on like life support machines and things like that, or on medication, life-sustaining medication that they run out of. And I mean, just anybody that's, you know, that's in a state of bad health is going to have a really hard time when the SHTF comes, because you won't be able to access your medicine and stuff like that. So if a grid collapse happens, look for a lot of dead bodies to start stacking up. Moving on. This next one, I've kind of coined this term for myself. I call it the southern border Trojan horse. And what I mean by that is because Biden has opened up the door and rolled out the red carpet on the southern border. And there's also this plan that I'm never going to forget. It's the UN, part of Agenda 2030. It's called Replacement Migration Plan. It was this plan that they put out there. And I can't remember what they're calling it now. There's another term for this, that if you say that, you're basically labeled a racist, misogynist, homophobe. It's not the replacement migration, but that's where this whole idea comes from. See, the UN said a long time ago, well, the United States and other Western countries aren't having enough children, enough offspring, so we have to fix that by bringing in all these third worlders to replace the existing population that are not replacing themselves. It's called replacement migration. It's a real plan, ginned up by the same sorts of evil people that are behind Klaus Schwab's and Bill Gates and people like that. So, I mean, I think that's very likely. And what I mean by southern border Trojan horse is that I think we all know, you can probably smell what I'm stepping in before I even say it, but basically terrorists are infiltrating our borders right now. I mean, Chinese nationals are coming in. I heard this podcast that was Tucker Carlson and Weinstein. I can't remember the guy's first name, but he's a biologist. And I'm wanting to say Jeff Weinstein, but I may be wrong about that. But anyway, go look for Tucker's, one of his more latest videos where he's talking to Weinstein, the biologist, about the Darien Gap, I believe it's called. Down there, just right around the Panama Canal, there's this area where all these people are coming over, and a big percentage of them are Chinese nationals. And he said, this is the interesting thing that I took away from that interview. Weinstein was saying that according to his sources and people he's talked to down on the ground, the Chinese nationals are being very hush-hush, almost as if some sort of a coordinated event is going on and they're not allowed to talk about it. So I'm highly skeptical of that report that I just heard. Not that there's not validity to it, but that it makes me skeptical about the border being wide open and why they're doing this sort of stuff. You know, I'll give you another real quick, kind of a little bit off topic, but not really. You know, the other day, people were criticizing Biden for launching this retaliatory attack because, you know, if you haven't heard, 3 soldiers got killed over in Iraq, I believe it was, at like Tower 21 or something like that, U.S. soldiers, and they blamed it on the Iranians, right? And so, and probably it was some sort of a, you know, surrogate or a puppet of Iran that did it. You know, they probably put them up to doing it. So we said for like a week, we're going to retaliate and we're going to hit these places. So basically we telecasted or we broadcasted our moves before we did them. And it gave people plenty of time to get out. And everybody's scratching their head. Even people on the left, they're scratching their head going, why would you tell people what you're doing before you do it? It gives them a chance to get their people out, you know, and their resources out of there. And I would argue that that's one more sign, including back to the southern border, and why it's wide open and why this humanitarian crisis has been intentionally created by the Biden administration, is to destroy the greatness of the United States of America, dethrone us from our superpower status. That's what all of this stuff has in common. Joe Biden is behind all of this crap, the economic collapse, the possible power grid collapse. You know, Congress has known about that for years and years, and they could have been doing things that would have been a lot cheaper than dealing with all these illegal immigrants. Instead of doing that, they could have been bolstering up and hardening our power grid so that we'd be hard against EMP or cyber attack, but they haven't done anything. They could have been building the wall, but oh no, they said that was $5 billion. But now New York City or some odd place is saying they need $12 billion from the feds to take care of the illegals that are coming in there. So financially, it would have been a lot cheaper just to build the damn wall like Trump said back in the day. You know, and I'm not a number one Trump fanboy or a sycophant for Trump, but he was absolutely right about that. Now, I've talked about it in the past. I am a little bit skeptical in that a wall is going to actually solve our problems because they'll just tunnel under, they'll find ways around, they'll cut through. Hell, the feds will come down there. If Biden's on the watch, the feds will come down there and cut through the fence or whatever, whatever efforts Texas or any other state tries to make to secure their own borders. Biden is going to undermine that directly and get away with it with the permission of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So our system is failing us. Although we have three separate but equal branches of government, our system is not holding up. It's not, the checks and balances have been removed by really just politics is what it is. And they're screwing us, guys. But yeah, the southern border Trojan horse is a big deal. You need to watch out for it. I mean, it might not be Chinese. It might be Iranians or Iraqis or Afghanistan people coming up here and suicide bombing themselves or whatever. But it's coming. You guys know it. You all feel it. So let's move on to the next one. Civil War 2.0, and that kind of ties in with the last one. Obviously, Texas has put up a hell of a resistance as of late, saying that, no, we're not going to put up with this, Biden. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. They're taking a stand, a big stand. And I've said also in the past that out of all the states in the union, Texas is the most likely to succeed if they have to break off and form their own country. So Biden is, he's playing with the end of a dangerous snake's tail. That's what it is. He's messing around. FAFO, fuck around and find out. That's what Biden is pushing people towards. We've got this massive convoy going down to Texas, to support them and stuff like this. All around the world right now, because of the climate Nazis, farmers are protesting and spraying manure on government buildings and stuff like this, stacking giant walls of hay up and setting them on fire, and tires and stuff like this. I mean, some of these protests over in Europe are getting on the verge of violence because these people realize what the controllers are trying to do. They're trying to use a Stalin-esque Mao Zedong fucking plan to starve everyone out by seizing the means of production. It's what communists everywhere do every single time. So that's why all of a sudden all the farmers in Europe are pissed off, is because they recognize the commies are not only coming, they're here. They've infiltrated our system. Not only in the European Union and European nations, but here in the United States as well. The commies are in charge right now. That's why everything tastes like a shit sandwich. When you look around, you're like, what is this? What's going on over here? And you can always point back to Biden standing there saying gibberish, going, I'm Joe Biden, this is my wife Jill, I got hairy legs, whatever. And he gets away with murder. And yet on the other hand, if Trump stumbles as he's walking out of his limo or something, they're like, oh, I don't know, his health isn't looking so good. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. I mean, the double standards are so in your face that if you don't see them, you're a slave to the machine. That's the reality of it. So when you're talking to your family members and they think you're fucking crazy because you're telling them the truth about what's going on and they're looking at you like, yeah, right, that's not what I heard on MSM, just know they're a slave to the machine. There's probably not much you can do to break them out of their slavery. They've put on the velvet cuffs and they're not wanting to take them off because that makes them uncomfortable to have to live and be, independent and self-reliant and stuff like that. That scares them. They need to be dependent on the system. And so, yes, I mean, we're seeing a clash of civilizations, of mentality here in the United States. And the vast majority of the young people seem to be on the side of the left. The vast majority of the older people that have been around and seen a few things are more on the side with the right and the libertarians. The people that are for smaller government and, less government control and more individual freedom and liberty. So that's the side I stand with, and the people that are pro-gun, pro Second Amendment, pro First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. How long has it been since we've actually had a free press here in the United States of America? An unbiased, if there is such a thing, free press. It doesn't exist. Everything has a slant to it. Even my videos. I mean, I'm clear. I'll tell you, I'm a conservative. Right now, I'll tell you where I come from. They won't bother to give you the courtesy to do that. So just assume they're leftists, because they are. They're Marxists. They're communists. So anyway, Civil War 2.0. How likely do I think that is? Not as likely as some of the other ones, but I could be wrong. I mean, we're seeing a massive resistance forming, not only in the United States, but all around the world against these globalist WEF UN policies. So, I mean, it's possible. It is possible. And I think the scarier this situation is allowed to get down in Texas, the more likely Civil War 2.0 is going to become a reality. So anyway, moving on. Supply chain collapse. And again, this kind of ties back into the European rules and the communists coming after farmers all around the world. And it's not just in Europe, it's also on the North American continent, in Canada as well. They voluntarily, through their, Justin Trudeau, who gets away with doing blackface and all that, he's fine doing that. But anybody else does it, by God, they're a racist for life. No, Justin Trudeau, Klaus Schwab's #1 protege or whatever, is destroying Canada just to our north. So not only do we have a hell of a lot of problems going on our southern border, our northern border is going to be a problem in the future if Canada is lost to the communists. And it looks like they're a long ways farther down the road to serfdom than we are. So with all these things going on and all these new controls being put on the people and the farmers and the supply chain, I fear a supply chain collapse is incoming. It may not be worldwide. I don't know how it will affect us, but I do know this. We import a lot of food. We're not self-reliant like we used to be. We don't grow everything here. For one, the climate's not perfect for that sort of thing. But a lot of stuff is imported from foreign nations. And as these foreign nations have the screws tightened on them, at very least, the prices are going to explode. At very worst, there may not be availability. So whatever it is that you love and you like and you have to maintain your life and your happiness, you better stock up on it now, because it might not be available in the future, or you might not be able to afford it. So now we're going to talk about the next one, Disease X, another one that was hatched up by the WEF and the UN. They've got this idea of a hypothetical disease that could be the next big thing. And that's all it is, guys. They don't have some secret bio lab somewhere where they're cooking this stuff up. Oh, no. They're just trying to help you out so they can get ahead of things and put controls in place so that they can lock down more easily. And if you don't think for a second that the tyrants and the controllers that seized power away from and seized liberties away from the American people aren't foaming at the bit to lock us down again, you got another thing coming. If you don't think that they're foaming at the bit to do mail-in ballots and stuff like that, you got another thing coming. They would love nothing more than to spread a new disease, even if it killed millions and millions of people, as long as they could hold power. So I am highly skeptical of all this recent talk at Davos about this Disease X pandemic that's surely coming. And of course, all the usual players are behind the scenes in on this deal. You got Fauci back there. You got Bill Gates funding this sort of stuff. I mean, the same old players that were involved in the COVID and making sure that the vax was mandated and all that stuff, they're still in charge. So, I mean, unbelievably, it's, in a free country, you would think those people would have been prosecuted, and maybe even some Nuremberg 2.0 type trials should have taken place already as a result of the way we overreacted to the COVID. But whatever, I guess it's water under the bridge now because no one talks about it, and you're really not allowed to say much about it, especially here on YouTube, because they don't like you saying anything that disagrees with the WHO's plan. The World Health Organization, who's run by, I can't remember the guy's name. But he's a commie. He's a well-known, devout communist. Certainly a Marxist, but I would say a communist. So anyway, look out, guys. Disease X could be coming. That's all they were talking about in Davos. That, and their number one threat that they're worried about is misinformation and disinformation. See, they don't like people on the YouTube and on the internet that has a different opinion than them being able to speak. They label that misinformation and disinformation and recommend that all those people be banned and, whatever, shadow ban, whatever they want to do to keep your videos from being able to get traction, or your news article, or whatever it may be. They're banning everybody. So if you disagree, if you're in full agreement with their communist agenda, then they put you on the front page and you make lots and lots of money. Isn't that interesting? The last one on our list here, and probably one of the most likely things that could be just an instant SHTF nation ender. World War III. We're on the brink of it. I've talked about it for many, I don't know, maybe a couple of years now. I mean, since the Russians went into Ukraine. And I don't blame the Russians for going into Ukraine. I blame people like Victoria Nuland, George Soros, and others, the Obama people, Biden, back in 2014. They started a color revolution over in Ukraine. And they brought in a puppet that the West was going to be, that was going to be favorable to the Western nations, right? And that's how Zelensky, in the end, ended up getting his job, and why he has to basically kiss the West's ass, or else they'll cut him off all those hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And turn him into a pariah, make him a scapegoat. It's one of the common tactics that the United States has used over the years. And I am in complete 100% disagreement with that policy. It's not just Biden. Multiple administrations throughout our more recent history have used the CIA, the FBI, NSA, all of these shadowy, clandestine organizations to undermine the rights of American citizens and many of our allies around the world. It's unbelievable how bad they have destroyed the credibility on a world level of the United States. I mean, if I were some foreign nation and the United States says, yeah, you go do this and I'm going to have your back, I would assume automatically that they're lying to me. I can't believe anyone ever gets involved with them. And it really, to be honest with you, it shows Zelensky's stupidity for falling in like he has, which makes me think he's one of their people. Again, he's connected to all this deal, so it's just, there are so many different weird connections when you start looking around at why they're doing this now, when the United States can barely meet, and we're not capable of meeting our recruitment goals. Does that tie in with the reason the southern border is wide open? Are they bringing in an army of migrants to fight our wars for us with, an idea of guaranteed citizenship if you somehow live through it? I mean, I don't know, but that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. You want people that are fighting your wars to have a vested interest in the nation. And these new people that are just now coming here don't have a vested interest in the United States anyway. They might, many of them, maybe they do want to, assimilate and become American citizens, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them continue to speak their language. They never bother to learn the language of the land and expect everyone else to change all of our signs to accommodate for them. And that's not the way it works. You're coming to a new country, you should learn the lay of the land. If I was moving to Ukraine or Russia or someplace like that, I would not dare think of doing it until I at least knew how to, say the basic phrases that you need to say, like, where's the bathroom? Hey, help me, I need the police, or stuff like that. I need a hospital, things like that. Get me a beer, all those things. I would have to know how to say those things before I went to some foreign country. But these people aren't doing that. They're coming in with the idea of bringing their old country with them, their old belief systems with them, and implementing them here in the United States of America. And that is the problem that I have with these illegals invading our border. And again, all of this stuff that we've talked about today, including World War III, have been done intentionally, by design, to destroy the United States of America as a superpower. That's what I believe. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about all this stuff? Which one of these 7 reasons that SHTF is coming in 2024, which one of these do you think is the most likely to come to a head first? Which one of these things is the most likely to be devastating to the United States' future, the future of America? Anyway, I always love reading your comments. Let me know down there what you're thinking about, what you're prepping up for. And as always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. Feels like that end is getting closer and closer every day. Prepare yourself now.